Russia is estimated to have lost almost half of its best tanks during its invasion of Ukraine, with Vladimir Putin's troops stepping up attacks in the country's eastern regions including Donetsk and Luhansk. Russia's staggering tank losses, which include the T-72, T-64, T-80, and T-90 tanks, can be attributed to its failure to provide adequate fire support in combat. Russian tanks have fallen prey to Ukrainian soldiers using anti-tank javelin missiles because they're hanging out aimless in open fields, with little to no support or protection. These problems were underscored during a recent tank battle near the eastern Ukrainian town of Bakhmut. In and around settlements such as Bakhmut, repeated Russian assaults have disintegrated. Mired in minefields, pummeled by artillery, run over by aggressive Ukrainian tank counterattacks. When a Russian brigade loses dozens of armored vehicles in one failed attack, it might also lose hundreds of soldiers. Ukraine's military has claimed that Russia lost at least 130 tanks and armored personnel carriers in a 3-week battle in Bakhmut, which Ukrainian officials have described as the biggest tank battle of the war so far. Moscow repeated detrimental mistakes it made during its assault on Kyiv in the early days of the war. It sent columns of tanks straight into Ukrainian ambushes. Russia's tanks were once seen as fearsome, formidable threats, but the war in Ukraine shows it doesn't know how to use them. Massed offensives of high-tech Russian tanks attacking in unstoppable waves of armor and firepower aren't just taking place less and less, they are probably close to extinct. Video footage shared online this week shows how Ukrainian forces continue to use Javelin surface-to-air missile, one of the first advanced missiles sent by the West upon the outbreak of the war, to destroy Russian tanks and military vehicles. In a video clip shared by the Ukrainian military this week, Ukrainian soldiers are seen destroying a Russian T-80 BVM tank somewhere in Donetsk Oblast using the Javelin missile. The Javelin manned portable surface-to-air missile system, designed to be used by a single soldier, can be seen held over the shoulder of a Ukrainian operator. In the next clip, a Russian tank is seen stationary in a rural field. The Javelin missile strikes the tank, creating a large plume of gray smoke. Besides, the Ukrainian army has planted mines at the intersection, which is just outside of the town of Bakhmut, and Ukrainian forces wait nearby to strike with anti-tank guided missiles. Despite more than a dozen tanks and fighting vehicles lying destroyed in the area, Russian forces are apparently continuing to try and drive into it. Drone footage from Ukraine's military has circulated on social media, appearing to show Russian vehicles being destroyed at the crossing point. The most recent video claims to show a Russian BMP-2 IFV being destroyed at the crossroads after running over a mine and being hit by an anti-tank guided missile. Another video shows a Russian T-72B3 tank and BMP-2 being destroyed by a mine and anti-tank guided missile. Ukraine's unexpected use of mines appears to be helping give it the upper hand in fighting in eastern Ukraine. Along with traditional Soviet mines, Ukraine has also been using US-supplied remote anti-armor mines, which involve firing a shell over an open area that scatters tiny mines widely. The General Staff of the Armed Forces of Ukraine said the Moscow has lost slightly more than 3.661 tanks, 7,098 armored fighting vehicles since the war began. Meanwhile, Ukrainian troops stopped the offensive attempt, forcing Russians to flee in Kupiansk direction. In Kupiansk direction, the enemy tried to go on the offensive but its units started to flee even before reaching the boundaries of the transition to the attack thanks to the accurate fire of our artillery, Colonel General Alexander Syrsky, commander of the ground forces of the Armed Forces of Ukraine said, Ukrinform reports. As the commander noted, the Russians carry out offensive operations in several directions at the same time, and most of them are unsuccessful. Despite the intensive activity of the enemy army, the Ukrainian troops managed to restrain its advance and inflict significant losses on invaders. In particular, the enemy's actions were also unsuccessful in Lyman direction. All their attempts to carry out offensive operations failed due to the stability of our positions and the courage of the soldiers, Syrski added. According to the commander, Bakhmut direction remains the epicenter of hostilities. The enemy concentrates its greatest efforts there and does not abandon the goal of taking control of the city at any cost. As of today, the enemy increases the activity of heavy artillery and the number of airstrikes, turning the city into ruins. At the same time, our fighters inflict significant losses on the enemy and slow down its offensive operations considerably. The fighting for Bakhmut continues. The situation is currently under control, said the Colonel General. As reported, British intelligence says that Russia is decreasing offensive action around Donetsk city, most likely to divert resources towards the Bakhmut sector.